we've approached a level of efficacy that you don't even see in vaccines.
I am intensely hopeful that this is going to be the game changer.
Science magazine each year decides that one advance is the breakthrough of the year. Lenacapavir PrEP stands out because of the impact it could have on the HIV/AIDS epidemic. It also starts to approach what a vaccine does in terms of getting a shot and being protected for 6 months. It also builds on basic research insights to its target, capsid, the HIV protein that it cripples. That is a breakthrough in and of itself. HIV was first identified in 1983, shown to be the cause of AIDS in 1984. Until 1996, there really weren't good drugs to stop HIV. But that was our breakthrough of the year in 1996 because cocktails of drugs showed that they could really knock the virus back. That allowed people to start living normal lives with a chronic, manageable disease. Populations that had the highest burden of HIV for many years couldn't access those drugs. But that began to change in the 2000s. It then became clear that people who took these drugs and stayed on them reduced the level of virus in their bodies so much that they didn't transmit to their sexual partners. It led to this notion of treatment as prevention. We had a drug in 2012 that was approved to be used as PrEP. PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis. It's not a new idea to take something before you're exposed to the infectious agent. And in communities that use PrEP aggressively, there are very few new infections. But it has a limitation. It's a daily pill, and many people have trouble taking daily pills.
So we've struggled with oral PrEP since South Africa has been rolling it out very, aggressively, if you like, since post-COVID. What we find is that even though young women and young other populations will say, let me give it a try, very soon they fall off the wagon. I don't want to leave the clinic with pill bottles that look like antiretrovirals because that's going to stigmatize me. I don't want to disclose to my intimate partner that I'm using PrEP because that implies I don't trust him. All of these, social and cultural and structural things come in and crowd PrEP out for these young people. We really needed more solutions that are less frequently dosed, and that's what Lenacapavir long-acting has brought us. I'm delighted that a decision was taken that the trial should come first to this population of women who have sex with men. There were 3 arms in the study, 2 oral PrEP arms, and then there was the Lenacapavir arm. Everybody got something active. We did not reduce the infections in those oral PrEP arms. The pills simply just weren't taken well enough to provide protection. In that Lenacapavir injectable arm, we did not see a single infection. That amounted to 100% efficacy, and I have never seen a result like that.
My first reaction was, is this real? It's too good to be true. But with the second study in diverse people who have sex with men, found 99.9% efficacy. The daily PrEP pills contain a combination of 2 drugs that both inhibit an enzyme HIV uses to copy itself. That's called reverse transcriptase. HIV is an RNA virus. It changes into DNA so that it can integrate with our chromosomes. Lenacapavir, in contrast to those, doesn't target an enzyme. It targets a structural protein of the virus called capsid.
I think it's fair to say that we didn't think when we started the work that this was going to be perhaps what will turn out to be the most important drug target in HIV. We always found the capsid fascinating. We really were drawn to the curiosity question of how does a protein form a cone? It has no symmetry, and yet a protein knows how to make it in a regular way. We assumed that the virus didn't go to the trouble of making a conical capsid without using it. And that's turned out to be true. So we now think of it as the sort of fundamental carrier and container for the replication cycle. Lenacapavir, it interferes with a lot of steps in HIV replication. The very most potent step it seems to block is in nuclear entry. When lenacapavir binds, it flattens the capsid lattice and we think makes it more fragile. Perhaps moving through a tight nuclear pore just isn't possible. And then it interferes with the process of particle formation. It also interferes with making a correct capsid.
It has more powers than what it does for PrEP. It's working at both early stage and late stage HIV replication. Interestingly, they were setting out to make a new treatment drug.
That's for people who have drug-resistant virus, and that's because the capsid is a new target. So you would expect that there's been no pressure for drug resistance. So it's an effective drug, although the real promise is in preventing transmission.
Gilead, I think, learned from its past mistakes. With oral PrEP, they didn't have generic versions available for quite some time. What Gilead has done here is they cut deals with 6 generic manufacturers to make lenacapavir for low-income countries. Middle-income countries are in the lurch right now, and activists have slammed Gilead for this. The price barriers are real, and until they're really addressed, it's going to slow the use of this form of PrEP. The hope is that for lower-income countries, the rollout of lenacapavir PrEP will be similar to the wealthy world.
We want to give it widely and enthusiastically. I've lived through the era when antiretrovirals were so expensive and we had to ration them. When we were able to say antiretrovirals should not only be given to everybody, but it should be given to everybody the minute they're diagnosed, it changed the face of antiretroviral care. I'm very hopeful that we can offer it in an egalitarian way to whoever believes that they could benefit from it.
The writing on the wall is that things are moving forward with more thoughtfulness than in the past, with more connection to the communities that most need this. A lot of mistakes were made in the past by the companies, by governments, by insurance companies that really have prevented PrEP from doing what it can do. What lenacapavir PrEP might do is catalyze the drop that everyone's been hoping for that will take this down to a level that starts to approach ending the epidemic.